The slap echoed through the cramped kitchen like a gunshot. Jerome Williams stood over the frail old woman crumpled on the linoleum floor. His hand still raised, his face twisted with rage. $32. He spat the words like venom. You sat out there all day, and you only brought back $32. Dorothy Thompson, 68 years old, didn't cry. She had stopped crying months ago. She simply pressed her palm against her stinging cheek and whispered, "I'm sorry. The rain. People didn't stop today." Get up. Jerome grabbed her thin arm and yanked her to her feet. You're going back out there tomorrow, and if you don't bring back at least 50, you know what happens. Dorothy knew. The dark storage room. No light, no food, no water, sometimes for 2 days. What Jerome didn't know was that at this very moment, a black Tesla Model S was crossing the Bay Bridge carrying a man who had built a $500 million empire. A man who had sent $150,000 to this address over the past 8 months. A man who believed his mother was living like a queen. A man named Marcus Thompson, Dorothy's only son. And when he discovered what his own cousin had done to his mother, nothing in this world would stop him from making Jerome pay. If you want to see justice served, subscribe to this channel and follow this story until the very end. Drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Now let me take you back to the beginning of the worst day of Jerome Williams's life. Part 1. Marcus Thompson pressed his foot harder on the accelerator. The Tesla surged forward, weaving through traffic on the Bay Bridge. 8 months. 8 months away from home, and now every minute felt like torture. His phone buzzed. David, his assistant. Talk to me. Sir, the contracts are all signed. Berlin office confirmed. You're officially a $500 million man. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. Good. Any messages from my mother? Silence on the other end. David. Nothing new, sir. Same as the last few weeks. No answer at the house phone. No response to the emails we sent on your behalf. Marcus frowned. That's strange. She always answers. I'm sure she's fine, sir. Maybe she's just busy with church activities or something. Yeah, maybe. But something gnawed at his gut, a feeling he couldn't shake. He had tried calling his mother directly dozens of times over the past 2 months. Nothing. He had asked Jerome to check on her. Jerome always said the same thing. She's fine, cuz. Just tired. Old people sleep a lot, you know. Marcus had believed him. Why wouldn't he? Jerome was family. Blood. He pushed the worry aside and glanced at the passenger seat. Shopping bags from Harrods and Hermes sat piled high. A purple cashmere scarf, the exact shade his mother loved. A pearl necklace, to replace the one she'd lost years ago. A first edition cookbook of Louisiana recipes that would make her cry with joy. I'm coming, Mama, Marcus whispered. Almost there. He took the exit toward Piedmont, toward the $2 million house he had bought for his mother 3 years ago. But his throat was dry, scratchy from 16 hours of travel. He needed water. A Whole Foods appeared on his right. Quick stop. 5 minutes. Marcus pulled into the parking lot and stepped out. The November wind hit him immediately, sharp and cold. He pulled his Armani coat tighter and walked toward the entrance. The automatic doors slid open. He never made it inside. A cluster of people caught his attention. They were walking, strangely curving around a spot near the corner of the building. Some looked away quickly. Others pretended to check their phones. A security guard stood nearby, arms crossed, watching with obvious disgust. Marcus almost kept walking. Then he saw the purple. His feet stopped. His heart stopped. Everything stopped. Purple. Faded now, almost gray. But that specific shade, that particular cable knit pattern, he would recognize it anywhere because he had commissioned it himself from a small shop in Milan. $800. His mother had cried when she opened it. No. The word escaped his lips before he could stop it. No, 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 no! He was running before he knew it. His briefcase fell from his hand. His phone clattered to the ground. He didn't care. The security guard stepped forward. "Sir, I wouldn't bother. She's been here every day for months. We've tried to move her along, but she keeps coming back." Marcus shoved past him, and then he saw her. Dorothy Thompson sat on a piece of flattened cardboard, her back against the cold brick wall. A tattered coffee cup sat in front of her, containing a few coins and crumpled dollar bills. Her hair, once carefully styled every week at Miss Geneva's salon, hung in matted gray strands around her hollow face. But it was her eyes that destroyed him. Empty, vacant, dead. "Mama!" The woman looked up slowly. She squinted at the tall man in the expensive coat. "Spare some change." Her voice was a rasp. "God bless you, sir. Anything helps." Marcus dropped to his knees. His $3,000 pants soaked through instantly. He grabbed her shoulders, feeling bones where flesh should be. "Mama, it's me. It's Marcus, your son." Dorothy stared at him. Her cracked lips moved, but no sound came out. Then she shook her head. "Marcus is gone." Her voice carried no emotion. "My boy left. He has a new family now. Doesn't need this old woman anymore." "What?" Marcus felt like someone had punched him in the chest. "Mama, what are you talking about? I've been in Europe, for work. I called you every week. I sent money every month." "Jerome told me." Dorothy's eyes drifted away. "He said you were ashamed of me. Said you found yourself a nice wife, nice kids. Didn't want people knowing about your poor mama from the projects." Marcus's blood turned to ice. "Jerome told you that?" "He showed me papers. Said you went bankrupt, lost everything. That's why the money stopped." "Money stopped?" Marcus pulled out his phone, hands shaking. He opened his banking app. Transaction history. Every deposit was there. $15,000 every single month for 8 months. And next to each deposit was a withdrawal. Same day, same amount. $153,000. Marcus breathed. He stole $153,000. Dorothy reached out and touched his face. Her fingers were ice cold. "Are you really my boy? You look like him. You smell like him." "Mama." His voice cracked. "I never stopped sending money. I never stopped calling. I never abandoned you." Something flickered in Dorothy's eyes. A tiny spark of the sharp woman she used to be. "Jerome took my phone," she whispered. "Said it was too complicated for me. Said he'd handle all the calls." Marcus stood up. His hands were shaking. Not from cold, from rage. "Where is he? Where is Jerome right now?" Fear flashed across Dorothy's face. "Don't go there. Please. Denise will be angry. When Denise gets angry, she..." She stopped, pulled her hand back, tugged at her sleeve, but Marcus had already seen. He reached down and pushed the fabric up, revealing her forearm. Bruises. Yellow from old injuries, purple from new ones, and thin red lines where something sharp had broken the skin. The sound that came from Marcus's throat wasn't human. "Who did this?" Dorothy yanked her arm back. "I fell. I'm clumsy now. Jerome says I need to be more careful." "Mama." Marcus knelt again, taking both her hands. "Tell me the truth." Her wall crumbled. "Denise," she whispered. "Denise doesn't like me. She says I eat too much. She says I'm a burden. When I don't bring back enough money, she hits me. And Jerome locks me in the storage room." Storage room. It's dark in there. No windows, no lights, just dark. Dorothy's voice became small, childlike. "I'm scared of the dark, Marcus. I always have been. You remember? You used to leave the hall light on for me." Marcus remembered. His whole life his mother had slept with a light on, a childhood trauma she never explained, and now Jerome was using it against her. How long has this been happening?" "Since you left. Jerome came to help me. That's what he said. He said you asked him to take care of me. First he took my bank cards, for safekeeping. Then he made me sign papers. What papers? For the house. Marcus felt the ground shift beneath him. What house? Your house, the one in Piedmont. You signed the house over to him. He said it was temporary. He said you needed the money for your debts. Marcus stood up slowly. The man who rose was not the same man who had knelt down. Something in him had shifted, hardened, frozen. Get up, Mama. You're coming with me. I can't. Dorothy's eyes went wide. If Jerome comes and I'm not here, Jerome will never touch you again. He bent down and lifted his mother. She weighed nothing. 75 pounds, maybe less. A woman who had once carried him on her back through flooded streets was now light as a child. Dorothy wrapped her arms around his neck and sobbed into his shoulder. I thought you forgot about me. I thought you didn't want me anymore. Never. Marcus held her tighter. I will never leave you again. He carried her to the car. The shopping bags full of expensive gifts meant nothing now. He swept them onto the floor. Dorothy looked around the Tesla with wonder. This is your car. This is our car, Mama. Everything I have is yours. He pulled out his phone and dialed. David, listen carefully. Send my physician to the house. Call Clarence at the firm for emergency legal action. Contact Detective Williams at Oakland PD. He paused. And get me everything on Jerome Williams. Bank accounts, property records, gambling debts, everything. He hung up and started the car. Marcus. Dorothy's voice was small. What are you going to do? I'm going to destroy him. The Tesla pulled out of the parking lot. There's more, Dorothy said quietly. Things you need to know. Tell me. The house in Piedmont. Jerome sold it, 6 months ago, for cash. Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. How much? 2.3 million. 2.3 million, added to the stolen transfers. Nearly $2.5 million stolen while his mother begged for quarters. He bought Denise a Mercedes, Dorothy continued. She brags about it to her friends. And my jewelry, the pearls from your grandmother, the gold bracelet you gave me. Denise wears them now. Marcus said nothing. A muscle twitched in his jaw. There's something else. Dorothy lowered her voice. Jerome owes money to bad people, gamblers, loan sharks. I heard him crying on the phone once. He's scared of them. How much does he owe? I don't know, but enough to make him desperate. Desperate enough to do anything. The car turned into the Oakland Hills. Houses grew larger, streets grew quieter. Finally, they pulled up to Marcus's mansion. Dorothy gasped. You live here. We live here now. Inside, Margaret, the housekeeper, met them at the door. Her professional composure shattered when she saw Dorothy. Oh, my lord, Mrs. Thompson. Draw a bath, Marcus ordered. Prepare food. Make up the guest room. Of course, sir. Marcus guided his mother through the house. She touched everything with wonder. The marble countertops, the silk curtains, the leather furniture. It's beautiful, she whispered. It's yours. After Margaret led Dorothy away, Marcus walked into his study and made calls. Detective Williams, his lawyer Clarence, his private investigator, his head of security. By the time he finished, a plan was forming. A knock at the door. Margaret, your mother is asking for you. She's afraid to sleep. Marcus found Dorothy in the guest room, sitting on the edge of the enormous bed, trembling. The bed is too big, she whispered. I'm not used to. I've been sleeping on concrete, in the storage room. Marcus walked to the closet and pulled out blankets. He spread them on the floor, creating a soft nest in the corner. What are you doing? Dorothy asked. Making you feel safe? He sat down and patted the space beside him. Dorothy lowered herself slowly, wincing. Once she was settled, Marcus stretched out next to her. You don't have to sleep on the floor, Dorothy said. You're a rich man. I'll sleep wherever you are, Mama. She took his hand. Her grip was weak, but her fingers were finally warm. I'm sorry, she whispered. For what? For believing Jerome. For believing you abandoned me. He manipulated you, isolated you, made you think there was no one left. Marcus squeezed her hand. That's what abusers do. I felt so alone. Her voice broke. Every day on that sidewalk watching people walk by. Some looked at me with disgust. Others wouldn't look at all. I stopped feeling human. You are the most human person I know. You raised me alone, worked 3 jobs, sacrificed everything. Without you, I'm nothing. Dorothy was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke. There's a notebook, hidden in my old room at Jerome's house, in the mattress. I wrote everything down. Dates, what happened, everything. Why? Because I knew someday someone would come. Someday someone would believe me. Marcus kissed her forehead. I believe you, Mama. Every word. An hour later, Dr. Chen arrived. The examination took a long time. When the doctor finally emerged, his face was grim. She's malnourished, lost about 35 pounds, multiple contusions in various stages of healing, restraint marks on her wrists, chest infection, and psychological trauma consistent with severe prolonged abuse. Marcus's fists clenched. What else? There are signs of waterboarding. What? Her reactions suggest someone held her head underwater, repeatedly. The psychological damage from that alone. Marcus turned away. He couldn't breathe, couldn't think. His mother, waterboarded by his own cousin. Whatever she needs, Marcus said, his voice barely controlled. Therapists, specialists, round-the-clock care, whatever it costs. I'll send recommendations tomorrow. For now, let her rest. After the doctor left, Marcus returned to his mother. She was lying on the blankets, exhausted but calmer. Marcus. Yes, Mama. Remember when you were 7? That flood that hit East Oakland? Marcus nodded. I remember. I carried you 4 blocks through waist-high water to get to the shelter. You were so scared. You kept crying, asking if we were going to die. You told me we weren't. You said as long as we had each other, nothing could hurt us. Dorothy smiled weakly. I believed it then. I stopped believing it these past months. But now? She squeezed his hand. Now I believe it again. I'm going to take care of you, Mama, for the rest of my life. And Jerome. Marcus's eyes hardened. Jerome is going to pay for every bruise, every tear, every second you spent in that dark room. He's dangerous. So am I. Dorothy studied her son's face. The boy she had raised was gone. In his place was a man capable of things she couldn't imagine. Don't become like him, she whispered. Don't let hate change who you are. I'm not becoming like him. I'm becoming what he should fear. Marcus stayed with his mother until she fell asleep. It took hours. She kept jerking awake, gasping, expecting to find herself back in the storage room. Each time he whispered reassurances until she settled. Finally, sometime after 3 in the morning, her breathing became even. Marcus carefully stood and walked to the window. The Bay Area glittered below a sea of lights. Somewhere out there, Jerome Williams was sleeping peacefully, unaware that his world was about to collapse. Marcus pulled out his phone. One more call to make. Detective Williams, I have new information. Evidence of torture. Waterboarding. He paused, listening. Yes, I'm sure. My mother's physician documented everything. Another pause. I want Jerome Williams arrested by tomorrow night, and I want to be there when you put the cuffs on him. He hung up and stared out at the darkness. Sleep well tonight, Jerome, Marcus whispered. It's the last peaceful night you'll ever have. Behind him, Dorothy murmured in her sleep. A nightmare. Marcus returned to her side, took her hand, and began humming the lullaby she used to sing to him when he was a boy. The same lullaby she had sung while carrying him through floodwaters. The same lullaby that had kept him safe all those years ago. Now it was his turn to keep her safe. And God help anyone who tried to stop him. The first light of dawn crept through the windows. Marcus hadn't slept. He sat in a chair beside his mother, watching her rest, his mind churning through everything he had learned. His phone buzzed. A text from his investigator. Found it. Jerome owes $200K to Vincent Malone. Loan shark. Deadline is next week. That's why he sold the house. That's why he needs the begging money. He's desperate. Marcus typed back, "Get me everything on Malone." Another buzz. Clarence, his lawyer. Papers ready. Civil suit for fraud, theft, elder abuse. Criminal referral prepared. We can file today. Marcus responded, "Do it, and find out how to reverse the house sale. Fraudulent transfer, coercion, whatever angle works." A third buzz. Detective Williams. Warrant approved. We move on Jerome Williams at 6 p.m. You still want to be there? Marcus typed one word, yes. He put the phone away and looked at his mother. She was stirring, waking slowly. Marcus. Her voice was groggy. Is it morning? It's morning, Mama. I dreamed I was back on the street, back on the cardboard. Her eyes filled with tears. Then I woke up and you were here, and I knew I was safe. Marcus took her hand. You are safe. Forever. What happens now? Now you rest. Margaret will bring you breakfast. Dr. Chen will check on you later. He stood up. And I have some business to take care of. Fear flashed across Dorothy's face. Jerome? Jerome. Be careful. He has those friends. Those bad people. I know, Mama. Marcus leaned down and kissed her forehead. But bad people aren't the only ones with friends. He walked to the door, then stopped. Mama. Yes. That notebook you hid. The one in the mattress. Where exactly is it? In my old room at Jerome's house. Underneath the mattress near the headboard, inside a plastic bag. Thank you. Marcus opened the door. Rest now. I'll be back before dinner. Marcus? He turned. When you see Jerome, tell him something for me. What? Dorothy's eyes hardened. For a moment, she looked like the fierce woman who had raised him alone, who had fought off drug dealers and gangsters to keep her son safe. Tell him his Auntie Dorothy didn't break. Tell him I survived. Tell him he failed. Marcus smiled grimly. I'll tell him. He walked out into the morning light. 6 p.m. couldn't come fast enough. Marcus spent the day preparing. Meetings with lawyers, calls with detectives, briefings from investigators. By 5 o'clock, he had a complete picture of Jerome's destruction. The stolen transfers, $153,000. The house sale, $2.3 million, the jewelry approximately $50,000. The gambling debts, $200,000 owed to Vincent Malone with interest accumulating daily. Jerome had burned through almost everything. The house money, the transfers, all of it fed into his gambling addiction and Denise's expensive tastes. The only reason he was still alive was because he kept promising Malone he would get more. More money from begging. More money from his aunt. More money from Marcus if he ever came back. He was planning to blackmail you, the investigator explained. I found texts between him and Denise. They were going to claim Dorothy was mentally incompetent, that she gave them the house willingly. If you challenged it, they would say you were trying to steal from your own mother. Marcus's jaw tightened. They were going to frame me. That was the plan. Turn you into the villain. Make themselves look like the caring relatives who took in a confused old woman. What else? Denise has been posting on social media photos of herself with your mother's jewelry, bragging about her new Mercedes. Her friends think she hit the lottery. Marcus looked at the photos. Denise Williams grinning at the camera, wearing his grandmother's pearls around her neck. His grandmother who had survived the Jim Crow South. His grandmother who had marched with Dr. King. His grandmother whose pearls had been passed down through 4 generations of Thompson women. Now they hung around the neck of a woman who beat his mother for not begging hard enough. Send these to Detective Williams, Marcus said quietly. All of them. At 5:30, Marcus drove to East Oakland. He parked 2 blocks from Jerome's house and waited. At 5:50, 2 unmarked police cars pulled up beside him. Detective Williams stepped out, a tall black man with graying temples and sharp eyes. "You sure you want to do this?" Williams asked. "Watching a family member get arrested, it stays with you." "He's not family." Marcus opened his car door. "He stopped being family the moment he touched my mother." They approached the house on foot. A run-down 2-story in a neighborhood that had seen better days. Paint peeling, lawn overgrown. A brand-new Mercedes sat in the driveway, gleaming and obscene against the decay. Williams knocked on the door, shuffling inside. Then Jerome's voice. "Who is it?" "Oakland Police Department." "Open the door, Mr. Williams." A long pause. Then the door cracked open. Jerome Williams peered out, his face confused. "What's this about, officer?" He saw Marcus standing behind the detective. All color drained from Jerome's face. Marcus, you're back. When did you—" "Open the door, Jerome." Detective Williams held up a piece of paper. "We have a warrant for your arrest." "Arrest for what?" "Elder abuse, fraud, theft, unlawful imprisonment." Williams pushed the door open. "And that's just the beginning." Jerome stumbled backward. "This is crazy. I didn't do anything." Denise appeared at the top of the stairs wearing silk pajamas and full makeup. Around her neck hung a familiar string of pearls. "What the hell is going on?" she shrieked. "You can't just barge into our house." Marcus stepped inside. His eyes locked onto the pearls. "Those belong to my mother." Denise's hand flew to her throat. Dorothy gave these to me. She said she wanted me to have them." "My mother is Dorothy Thompson, and those pearls belong to her mother, Geneva Thompson, who got them from her mother, Ruth Thompson." Marcus walked toward Denise, his voice deadly calm. Ruth Thompson was born a slave in Mississippi. She was freed in 1865. Her former master's wife gave her those pearls as an apology for 20 years of bondage. Denise backed up against the wall. "Those pearls survived slavery. They survived Jim Crow. They survived the Depression. They survived 4 generations of Thompson women." Marcus stopped inches from her face. "And you stole them." "I didn't steal anything Dorothy gave." "Dorothy gave you nothing. You took them while she was locked in a storage room, terrified of the dark." Denise's mask cracked. Fear flickered in her eyes. "Jerome!" she screamed. "Do something!" But Jerome was already in handcuffs, being read his rights by Detective Williams. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." "This is insane!" Jerome shouted. "She's lying. Dorothy's crazy. She's senile. She doesn't know what she's saying." Marcus turned to face his cousin, the man who had eaten at his mother's table, the man who had called her auntie with love in his voice, the man who had cried at her feet when his own mother died. "She's not crazy, Jerome. She kept a notebook. Every date, every incident, every time you locked her in the dark, every time Denise hit her, every lie you told her about me." Jerome's face went white. "What notebook?" "The one hidden in the mattress. The one she kept because she knew that someday the truth would come out." Marcus stepped closer. "She wrote about the waterboarding too. How Denise held her head under the bathtub water when she cried too loud." "That's a lie," Denise screamed. "She's making it up. The doctor documented everything. The trauma patterns, the fear responses." Marcus's voice dropped to a whisper. "You tortured a 68-year-old woman. For money." 2 female officers approached Denise with handcuffs. "Denise Williams, you're under arrest for assault, elder abuse, and conspiracy to commit fraud." "You can't do this. I have rights." "So did my mother." Marcus watched as the cuffs clicked around her wrists. "But you didn't care about her rights, did you?" As the officers led Jerome and Denise outside, neighbors began gathering, watching, whispering. Detective Williams approached Marcus. "We'll need your mother to make a formal statement tomorrow. Can she handle that?" "She can handle anything. She's the strongest person I know." One more thing. Williams lowered his voice. We found evidence that Jerome was working with Vincent Malone, the loan shark, using your mother's begging money to pay off interest. What kind of evidence? Text messages, phone records. Malone was taking a cut of everything Dorothy brought in. Williams shook his head. These people were running your mother like a business. Marcus closed his eyes, breathed deeply. What happens to Malone? Different department, different warrant. But we'll get him too. The police cars pulled away carrying Jerome and Denise to booking. Marcus stood alone in front of the shabby house, staring at the Mercedes in the driveway. A Mercedes bought with his mother's suffering. He pulled out his phone and called his lawyer. Clarence, I want that car seized, and the house, and everything inside it. File for asset forfeiture tomorrow. Already on it. We're also preparing the civil suit. Based on the evidence, you could recover everything they stole plus damages. I don't care about damages. I care about justice. He hung up and walked toward the house. Time to find that notebook. The interior was worse than he expected. Empty liquor bottles everywhere. Ashtrays overflowing. The smell of stale cigarettes and rotting food. And there at the end of a dark hallway, a door with a heavy padlock on the outside. The storage room. Marcus approached it slowly. His hand trembled as he touched the cold metal lock. This was where his mother had been imprisoned. This tiny windowless space where she had screamed and cried and begged for mercy that never came. He forced himself to open it. The room was no bigger than a closet. Concrete floor. No light fixture, the bulb had been removed. A thin, filthy blanket lay crumpled in the corner. Beside it, an empty water bottle and a few cracker wrappers. Marcus sank to his knees. This was where Dorothy Thompson, the woman who had sacrificed everything for him, had been left to suffer in darkness. "I'm sorry, Mama," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." He stayed there for a long time, surrounded by the evidence of his mother's torment. Then he stood, wiped his eyes, and went to find the notebook. It was exactly where Dorothy said it would be. Inside a plastic bag hidden in the mattress. A simple composition book, the kind schoolchildren used. Marcus opened it and began to read. The first entry was dated 8 months ago, the day after Marcus left for Europe. Jerome came today. Said Marcus asked him to take care of me. I was so happy to have company. He's always been such a sweet boy. Marcus turned the page. Something's wrong. Jerome took my phone. Said it was too complicated. But I don't understand why he won't let me call Marcus. Another page. The money is gone. Jerome said Marcus went bankrupt. I don't believe it. My boy would never fail. But Jerome showed me papers. Page after page, the entries grew darker. Denise hit me today. I spilled some soup on the carpet. She called me stupid, called me worthless. Jerome locked me in the storage room for the first time. 6 hours in the dark. I screamed until my throat was raw. I have to go begging tomorrow. Jerome says if I don't bring back $50, I don't eat. I'm so tired. My feet hurt. My back hurts. People look at me like I'm garbage. Denise held my head under the water today. I thought I was going to die. I couldn't breathe. I can still feel the water in my lungs. I want to die. God forgive me, but I want to die. Marcus closed the notebook. His hands were shaking. His vision was blurred with tears. But beneath the grief, something else burned. Rage. Pure, cold, righteous rage. He tucked the notebook into his coat and walked out of the house. Past the neighbors still watching. Past the empty driveway where the Mercedes had been towed. He got into his Tesla and drove. Back to his mansion in the hills. Back to his mother. Dorothy was awake when he arrived, sitting in the living room with Margaret sipping tea. She looked up when Marcus walked in, and something in his face made her set down her cup. "You found it," she said. "The notebook." Marcus nodded. "Did you read it?" "Yes." Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry you had to see that. I didn't want you to know. No." Marcus crossed the room and knelt before her. "Don't you ever apologize. What happened to you was not your fault. None of it." But I let them. You survived them. He took her hands. You kept that notebook. You held on to hope when anyone else would have given up. Dorothy looked down at their joined hands. When I was in that dark room, I used to pretend you were there with me. I would imagine your voice telling me to be strong, telling me you were coming. I should have been there. I should have known. You couldn't have known. Jerome made sure of that. But I trusted him. I left you with him. You thought he was family. Dorothy squeezed his hands. So did I. They sat in silence for a long moment. What happens now? Dorothy finally asked. Now we rebuild. Marcus helped her to her feet. Tomorrow you'll talk to the detective. Tell them everything. Then we're going to get you healthy. Physically, mentally, everything. And the house. The money. I'm getting it all back. Every penny. Every piece of jewelry. Every single thing they stole from you. What about Jerome? Marcus's jaw tightened. Jerome is going to prison. So is Denise. For a very long time. Dorothy nodded slowly. I don't hate them, she said quietly. I should, but I don't. How can you not hate them after everything they did? Because hate is a poison. Dorothy touched her son's face. I watched it destroy Jerome. The gambling, the greed, the desperation. He became something terrible because he let hate and fear control him. She shook her head. I won't let what he did turn me into something I'm not. Marcus stared at his mother. After 8 months of abuse, torture, degradation, she was standing here talking about not becoming bitter. You're incredible, he whispered. You know that I'm tired. Dorothy smiled weakly. But I'm not broken. That's what you tell Jerome for me, remember? His Auntie Dorothy didn't break. I told him. What did he say? Nothing. He was too busy being put in handcuffs. For the first time since Marcus had found her, Dorothy laughed. A real laugh, weak and hoarse, but genuine. That's my boy, she said. That's my boy. Margaret appeared in the doorway. Mr. Thompson, Dr. Chen is on the phone. He wants to discuss a treatment plan for Mrs. Thompson. Marcus nodded. I'll take it in my study. He turned to his mother. Will you be okay for a few minutes? I'll be fine. Dorothy settled back onto the couch. Margaret and I are becoming friends. She's teaching me how to use that fancy coffee machine. Marcus smiled and walked to his study. Behind him, he heard Margaret saying something about cappuccinos and Dorothy laughing again. He closed the door and picked up the phone. Dr. Chen, thank you for calling. Mr. Thompson, I've reviewed all the findings. I want to recommend a comprehensive treatment plan. Daily visits from a nutritionist, twice weekly sessions with a trauma specialist, physical therapy for her feet and back, and a psychiatrist who specializes in PTSD. Whatever she needs. Money is no object. There's one more thing. Dr. Chen paused. Her fear of the dark. It's been severely exacerbated by the trauma. I'd recommend installing motion sensor lights throughout your home so she never has to walk through a dark space. Also a therapist who specializes in exposure therapy for phobias. Done. What else? Time, Mr. Thompson. She needs time. The physical wounds will heal in weeks. The psychological wounds, those could take years. Marcus looked out the window at the darkening sky. She'll have all the time she needs. I'm not going anywhere. After the call, Marcus sat alone in his study. The notebook lay on his desk, its simple cover hiding horrors within. He thought about the journey ahead, the trials, the testimony, the media attention that would inevitably come when people learned that a black tech billionaire's mother had been forced to beg on the streets by her own relatives. He thought about Jerome and Denise sitting in jail cells tonight, realizing that their scheme had collapsed. He thought about Vincent Malone, the loan shark, who would soon discover that threatening Marcus Thompson's family was the worst decision he ever made. And he thought about his mother laughing in the living room, learning to use a cappuccino machine, refusing to let 8 months of torture define her. She was the real hero of this story, not him. He just had the money and the power to help her get justice. His phone buzzed. A text from Detective Williams. Both suspects processed and held without bail. DA is reviewing charges. Preliminary hearing scheduled for next week. Your mother's testimony will be crucial. Marcus typed back, "She'll be ready." Another buzz. His investigator. Vincent Malone makes his collections on Fridays. Always uses 2 enforcers. Jerome was scheduled to pay $15,000 this week. Obviously, that's not happening. Marcus considered this information. Jerome owed Malone money. Jerome was now in jail. Malone would be angry. Malone might come looking for answers. And Malone didn't know that Marcus Thompson was involved. Yet. Marcus picked up the phone and made another call. "David, I need security at the house. 24 hours a day starting tonight. And I want background on Vincent Malone's operation. Everything. Associates, enemies, anyone who might want to see him go down. You're going after the loan shark too. Everyone who touched my mother is going to pay." Marcus leaned back in his chair. Everyone. He hung up and stared at the ceiling. Outside his window, night had fully fallen. The Bay Area glittered with a million lights. Somewhere in that darkness, Jerome Williams was lying on a prison cot, realizing that his life was over. Somewhere, Denise Williams was screaming at guards, demanding to know why she couldn't have her phone call. Somewhere, Vincent Malone was wondering why his Friday payment hadn't arrived. And somewhere in a warm mansion in the Oakland Hills, Dorothy Thompson was falling asleep in a real bed for the first time in 8 months, safe in the knowledge that her son had come home. The battle wasn't over. Not by a long shot. But the first shots had been fired. And Marcus Thompson never lost a war. The morning sun had barely risen when Marcus's phone rang. Detective Williams. "We have a problem." Marcus sat up immediately, careful not to wake his mother, who was finally sleeping peacefully in the next room. "What kind of problem?" "Jerome made bail." "What?" Marcus was on his feet, now pacing. "You said no bail. You said the charges were too serious. Someone posted $200,000 cash 30 minutes ago. Anonymous donor. The judge had no choice." Marcus's blood ran cold. "Malone. That's what we're thinking. The loan shark bailed out his debtor so he could collect what he's owed." Detective Williams paused. "There's more. Denise is out too. Same anonymous donor." Marcus grabbed his keys from the nightstand. "Where are they now?" "We don't know. They were released 20 minutes ago. Our officers lost them in traffic." "You lost them?" "I'm sorry, Marcus. We're doing everything we can to locate them. In the meantime, I'm sending 2 units to your house. Don't let your mother out of your sight." Marcus hung up and immediately called his head of security. "Code Red. Jerome and Denise are out. I want 4 men at every entrance. Nobody gets in or out without my approval." He walked to his mother's room and opened the door quietly. Dorothy was still asleep, her chest rising and falling gently. Safe. For now. But for how long? His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Your mother was supposed to bring me $15,000 this week. Since she can't work anymore, I expect you to pay. Corner of 73rd and International. Tonight, 9 p.m. Come alone or the old woman goes back to begging. Permanently." Marcus stared at the message. Vincent Malone had just made the biggest mistake of his life. 2 hours later, Marcus sat in his lawyer's office, the text message displayed on the conference room screen. "This is extortion," Clarence said, adjusting his glasses. "We can take this to the police right now." And what happens then? Malone disappears. Jerome and Denise disappear. They wait 6 months, a year, and then they come back. Marcus shook his head. "No, I'm going to that meeting." "Marcus, that's insane. These people are dangerous." "So am I." Clarence leaned forward. "What exactly are you planning?" Marcus pulled out his phone and made a call. "David, I need you to set something up for me. Tonight. Corner of 73rd and International." He listened for a moment, then smiled grimly. "Yes, all of it. And make sure the FBI field office gets a copy of that text message. I want federal charges ready to file by tomorrow morning." He hung up and turned to Clarence. "Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to meet Malone. I'm going to record every word he says, and then I'm going to bring down his entire operation. And if he tries to hurt you, he won't get the chance." Back at the mansion, Dorothy was awake and sitting in the kitchen with Margaret. When Marcus walked in, she immediately sensed something was wrong. What happened? Marcus hesitated. He didn't want to frighten her, but she had survived 8 months of hell. She deserved the truth. Jerome and Denise are out of jail. Dorothy's cup slipped from her fingers. It shattered on the floor, sending hot tea splashing across the tiles. "Out how?" "Someone bailed them out. We think it was Malone, the loan shark." Dorothy's face went pale. "He's coming for me." "No." Marcus knelt beside her, taking her trembling hands. "He's not coming anywhere near you. I have security all around this house. Armed guards at every door. You're safe here." "You don't understand." Dorothy's voice dropped to a whisper. "Malone is evil. Pure evil. I heard Jerome talking about him. He cuts off fingers, burns people's houses down. He killed a man last year for being 2 days late on a payment. Mama, he told Jerome that if he didn't pay, he would take me instead, sell me." Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. "I'm an old woman, Marcus. What would he do with me?" Marcus felt his stomach turn. The trafficking angle hadn't occurred to him, but it made sick sense. Malone was a predator. He would use any leverage he could find. "Listen to me." Marcus gripped her hands tighter. "I am going to end this. Tonight. By tomorrow morning, Malone will be in federal custody. Jerome and Denise will be back in jail with no bail. And you will never have to be afraid again." "How?" "You're going to have to trust me." Dorothy studied her son's face. The boy she had raised was gone. In his place was a warrior, a protector. "I trust you," she whispered. "I've always trusted you." Marcus kissed her forehead and stood. "Margaret, don't leave her side. Not for 1 second." "Yes, sir." He walked toward the door, then stopped. "Mama?" "Yes." "I love you." Dorothy smiled through her tears. "I love you too, baby. Come home safe." The hours crawled by. Dorothy tried to watch television, but she couldn't focus. She tried to eat, but everything tasted like cardboard. She tried to pray, but the words wouldn't come. At 7 o'clock, her phone rang. The caller ID showed a number she didn't recognize, but something made her answer. "Hello." "Hello, Auntie Dorothy." Her blood froze. "Jerome. How did you get this number? Does it matter?" Jerome's voice was different. Colder. More desperate. "I need to talk to Marcus." "He's not here." "Don't lie to me. I know he's there. Put him on the phone." "He's not here, Jerome. I'm telling you the truth." Silence on the other end. Then Jerome laughed. A hollow, broken sound. "You know what's funny, Auntie? I actually felt bad at first, when I took your money, when I made you beg. I told myself I would pay it all back someday." Dorothy said nothing. "But then Denise convinced me you deserved it. She said you were selfish, said you were just using Marcus's guilt to live like a queen while the rest of us struggled." Jerome's voice cracked. "I believed her. I actually believed her. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know I'm sorry, for whatever that's worth." Jerome paused. "And I want you to know that what happens tonight isn't my fault. Malone is calling the shots now. I'm just trying to survive." "What happens tonight?" "Your son thinks he's smart, thinks he can outsmart a man like Malone." Jerome's voice dropped. "He can't. Nobody can. Malone has been doing this for 20 years. He's killed cops, judges, witnesses. Your boy is walking into a trap." Dorothy's heart stopped. "What trap?" "Malone knows Marcus is recording him. He knows the FBI is involved. He's not stupid." Jerome's voice became urgent. "He's going to kill Marcus. Tonight. And then he's coming for you. Why are you telling me this? Because even after everything I did, you're still my family. and I can't watch Malone murder my cousin." Jerome took a shaky breath. "Tell Marcus to stay home. Tell him to take you and run. Leave Oakland. Leave California. Don't stop until you're on the other side of the country." The line went dead. Dorothy sat frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear. Then she was moving faster than she had moved in months, screaming for Margaret. "Call Marcus. Call him now." Margaret fumbled with her phone. "What's wrong?" "It's a trap. They're going to kill him." The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Voicemail. "Marcus, it's Mama. Don't go to that meeting. Jerome called. He said Malone knows everything. He's going to kill you. Please, baby, please call me back. Please come home." She hung up and dialed again. Same result. He's not answering. Dorothy was shaking now, her whole body trembling. "We have to find him. We have to stop him. Mrs. Thompson, I'm sure he's fine. Mr. Thompson knows what he's doing." "You don't understand." Dorothy grabbed Margaret's shoulders. "Malone is a killer. He's killed dozens of people. Marcus thinks he's walking into a negotiation, but he's walking into an execution." Margaret's face went white. "What do we do?" Dorothy thought of her son, her beautiful, brilliant son, who had built an empire from nothing, who had bought her a mansion and sent her money every month, who had slept on the floor beside her because she was afraid of the dark. She would not let him die. "Give me your keys." "What?" "Your car keys, now." "Mrs. Thompson, you can't drive. You haven't driven in years." "I drove for 30 years before my license expired. I can still remember how." Dorothy held out her hand. "Keys, now." Margaret hesitated, then handed them over. Dorothy Thompson, 68 years old, malnourished and traumatized, walked out to the garage, got into Margaret's Honda Civic, and started the engine. She didn't know where 73rd and International was, but she was going to find it, and God help anyone who got in her way. Across town, Marcus Thompson stepped out of his Tesla at the corner of 73rd and International. The neighborhood was empty, dark, industrial. Perfect for a clandestine meeting, perfect for a murder. He checked his watch. 8:55 p.m., 5 minutes early. His earpiece crackled. David's voice. "We have eyes on you. FBI tactical team is in position 2 blocks north. Local PD is standing by. Say the word and we move in." "Not yet. I need Malone on tape. I need him to admit to the extortion, the trafficking threats, everything." "Understood. Be careful." Marcus waited. 1 minute, 2, 3. At exactly 9 o'clock, a black SUV rolled up. The doors opened and 4 men stepped out. Large, armed, professional. Then Vincent Malone emerged. He was smaller than Marcus expected. Maybe 5'8" with silver hair and a tailored suit. He looked more like a banker than a killer, but his eyes told a different story. Cold, empty. The eyes of a man who had done terrible things and felt nothing. "Mr. Thompson." Malone's voice was smooth-cultured. "Thank you for coming. I appreciate a man who honors his commitments." "I'm not here to honor anything. I'm here to end this." Malone smiled. "Confidence. I like that. Your mother had confidence too at first. It took us a few weeks to break her." Marcus's fists clenched. "You're going to regret saying that." "Am I?" Malone gestured to his men. "You came alone as requested. Noble. Stupid but noble." He took a step closer. "Here's how this is going to work. You're going to transfer $2 million to an offshore account I'm going to give you. That covers what your cousin owes me plus interest, plus compensation for the trouble your family has caused. And if I refuse?" Malone's smile widened. "Then my men are going to put you in that SUV. They're going to drive you to a warehouse in Richmond, and they're going to spend the next several hours teaching you what happens to people who refuse me. Like you taught my mother. Your mother was a lesson for Jerome. Collateral damage." Malone shrugged. "She's old, worthless, but she served her purpose." Marcus took a deep breath. "I have a counteroffer." "I'm listening." "You turn around. You get in that SUV. You drive away and never contact my family again. In exchange, I don't destroy everything you've built." Malone laughed. A genuine amused laugh. "Mr. Thompson, do you have any idea who you're talking to? I've been running Oakland's underground for 2 decades. I've buried cops, judges, federal agents. You think a tech billionaire scares me? I think you should check your phone." Malone frowned, then pulled out his device. His face changed when he saw the notification. "What is this?" "That's the FBI freezing every account you own. All 17 of them." Marcus smiled coldly. "That's also the IRS opening an investigation into 20 years of unreported income. And that's the DOJ filing RICO charges against you and every member of your organization." Malone's mask cracked. For the first time, fear flickered in his eyes. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Marcus held up his own phone. "I've been recording this entire conversation. You just admitted to extortion assault and threatening a federal witness. But more importantly, my forensic accountants have been tracing your money for the past 12 hours. We found everything. The shell companies, the offshore accounts, the real estate purchases, the political donations. You can't do this." "I already did." Marcus took a step forward. "You made one mistake, Malone. You touched my mother. And now you're going to spend the rest of your life in a federal prison, wondering why you didn't just leave her alone." Malone's face contorted with rage. He turned to his men. "Kill him." The 4 guards reached for their weapons, and then the night exploded. Floodlights blazed from every direction. FBI tactical vehicles screeched into the intersection. Armed agents poured out weapons, raised screaming commands. "FBI, get on the ground now." Malone's men dropped their weapons immediately. They knew better than to fight. But Malone himself bolted. He shoved past Marcus and sprinted toward the SUV. He never made it. A Honda Civic came screaming around the corner, tires, squealing, headlights blazing. It jumped the curb and slammed directly into Malone's path. The loan shark bounced off the hood and crashed to the pavement, groaning. The driver's door opened. Dorothy Thompson stepped out. She stood over Malone's crumpled body, her chest heaving, her eyes blazing with a fury that 8 months of torture had forged into steel. "That's for every night in the dark room." She kicked him in the ribs. "That's for every time your people held my head underwater." Another kick. "And that's for making me beg on the streets like an animal." "Mama!" Marcus ran to her, pulling her back. "Mama, stop! I'm not done with him." "Yes, you are." Marcus wrapped his arms around her, holding her tight. "It's over. He's done. They're all done." FBI agents swarmed Malone, cuffing him, reading him his rights. More agents were arresting his guards. In the distance, sirens wailed as additional units arrived. Dorothy sagged against her son, the adrenaline draining from her body. "Jerome called me. He said they were going to kill you. I couldn't lose you again. You drove here by yourself. I had to save you." Marcus looked at his mother. This frail, traumatized woman who had been begging for quarters 3 days ago had just driven across Oakland to save his life. "Mama, I had everything under control." "Did you have a car ready to run over Malone?" Marcus laughed despite himself. No, I didn't." "Then I guess we're even." An FBI agent approached them. "Mr. Thompson, we need statements from both of you, and Mrs. Thompson. I'm afraid we have to discuss the assault charges." "Assault?" Dorothy straightened up. "That man tortured me for months. He threatened to sell me. He ordered my son's murder. And you want to charge me with assault?" The agent shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, you did hit him with a car." "He was resisting arrest. I was providing assistance." Marcus turned to hide his smile. His mother was back. The fierce, unbreakable woman who had raised him in the projects. The woman who had fought off gangsters and drug dealers to keep him safe. The woman who never, ever gave up. "We'll sort out the details later," Marcus said to the agent. "Right now I need to get my mother home." "Sir, we really need—" "Tomorrow. She's been through enough." The agent looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Marcus's eyes made him reconsider. "Fine, tomorrow, but don't leave town." Marcus guided his mother back to Margaret's Honda, which was now dented but still running. "You're going to need a new car," he said. "I'm going to need a lot of things." Dorothy looked back at the chaos behind them. Malone being loaded into an ambulance, his men being shoved into police vans, FBI agents photographing everything. "But right now, all I need is to go home." They drove in silence for a while. Then Dorothy spoke. "Jerome warned me about the trap." "I know. I heard your voicemail. That's why I had the FBI move in early." Marcus glanced at her. "Why do you think he did it, after everything?" Dorothy considered the question. "Because somewhere inside that broken man, there's still the little boy I raised when his mama died. The boy who used to call me Auntie Dorothy and cry when he skinned his knee." She sighed. "People aren't all good or all bad, Marcus. They're complicated. Jerome did terrible things, but in the end he tried to do one good thing. It doesn't excuse what he did to you. No, it doesn't." Dorothy was quiet for a moment. "But maybe it means there's hope for him, someday, after he pays for his crimes." Marcus didn't respond. He wasn't sure he could be as forgiving as his mother, but that was okay. She had enough grace for both of them. When they pulled into the driveway, Margaret was waiting at the door, tears streaming down her face. "Mrs. Thompson, I was so worried. When you took my car, I didn't know what to do." "I'm sorry for scaring you." Dorothy patted Margaret's hand. "But I had to save my son." "You hit a man with my car. I'll buy you a new one." Dorothy smiled. "A Mercedes. Denise's Mercedes, actually. I think that would be fitting, don't you?" Despite everything, Marcus laughed. His mother was going to be okay. More than okay. She was going to thrive. Inside the mansion, Dorothy settled onto the couch with a cup of tea. Marcus sat beside her, still processing everything that had happened. "What now?" Dorothy asked. "Now we wait. Jerome and Denise will be rearrested by morning. Malone is facing federal charges that will keep him locked up for life. And you—" Marcus took her hand. "You get to heal, for real this time." "What about the house, the one in Piedmont?" "My lawyers are working on it. The sale was fraudulent. We should be able to reverse it." "I don't want it back." Marcus blinked. "What?" "That house has too many memories now. Jerome sitting at my table planning how to steal from me. Denise wearing my mother's pearls." Dorothy shook her head. "I want to stay here, with you, if that's okay." "Mama, this is your home, for as long as you want." Dorothy smiled. "Then I'm home." She leaned her head against his shoulder, and within minutes, she was asleep. Marcus sat perfectly still, not wanting to disturb her. He listened to her breathing, slow and peaceful. 3 days ago, he had found her begging on the streets. Tonight, she had driven across Oakland to save his life. Tomorrow, they would begin building a new future together. But for now, this moment was enough. His phone buzzed. A text from Detective Williams. "Jerome Williams is in custody. Turned himself in an hour ago. Says he wants to testify against Malone in exchange for reduced charges. Says he has evidence of 12 other victims." Marcus read the message twice. 12 other victims. His mother wasn't the only one Malone had destroyed. He typed back a response. "Tell the DA whatever deal Jerome wants, I won't oppose it. If he helps put Malone away forever, that's what matters." He put the phone away and looked down at his mother's sleeping face. Justice was coming. For all of them. 3 weeks later, the federal courthouse in downtown Oakland was surrounded by news vans and reporters. Inside, Dorothy Thompson sat in the witness gallery, her hands folded in her lap, watching as Vincent Malone was led into the courtroom in shackles. Marcus sat beside her, his jaw tight. "You don't have to be here for this." "Yes, I do." Dorothy's eyes never left Malone. "I need to see his face when the judge reads the charges." The bailiff called the court to order. Judge Patricia Hawkins, a stern black woman in her 60s, took her seat and opened the file before her. "Vincent Anthony Malone, you are charged with 14 counts of extortion, 12 counts of assault with intent to cause bodily harm, 6 counts of human trafficking, 4 counts of money laundering, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder. She looked up. How do you plead? Malone's lawyer stood. Not guilty, Your Honor. Dorothy made a sound of disgust. Marcus put his hand on her arm. Furthermore, the judge continued, the prosecution has submitted testimony from 18 witnesses, including 1 co-conspirator who has agreed to testify against you in exchange for reduced charges. Jerome Williams. Dorothy turned to look at the door as her nephew was led in. He was thinner than before, pale, dark circles under his eyes. Their eyes met. Jerome looked away first. Mr. Williams, the judge addressed him. You understand that your testimony today will be used to determine whether this case proceeds to trial. Yes, Your Honor. And you understand that if you lie under oath, your plea agreement will be void, and you will face the full weight of your original charges. I understand. Jerome was sworn in and took the witness stand. The prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Sarah Chen, approached. Mr. Williams, how long have you known the defendant, Vincent Malone? About 4 years. And how did you come to know him? Jerome swallowed hard. I owed money to one of his collectors, gambling debts. When I couldn't pay, they brought me to Malone. What happened then? He gave me a choice. Jerome's voice shook. Pay double what I owed or work for him. What kind of work? Collecting debts, finding people who owed him money, and... Jerome paused, his eyes flicking to Dorothy. Finding vulnerable people he could exploit. Exploit how? Malone runs a network. He finds people who are alone, isolated, desperate. He gets them into debt, then uses that debt to control them. Makes them work for him. Beg for him, sometimes. Jerome's voice dropped. Sometimes he sells them. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. The judge banged her gavel. Sells them to whom? Whoever will pay. Labor contractors, massage parlors, private buyers. Jerome was crying now. I didn't want to be part of it. But once you're in with Malone, you don't get out. Did there come a time when you brought someone to Malone's attention? Jerome nodded, tears streaming down his face. My aunt, Dorothy Thompson. Dorothy gripped Marcus's hand so hard her knuckles went white. Tell the court what happened. Malone found out my aunt's son was rich, really rich. He said we could use her to get to him, drain his accounts, sell her property, keep her begging on the streets until we'd taken everything. And did you participate in this scheme? Yes. Jerome's voice was barely audible. God forgive me, yes. What specifically did you do? I isolated her, took her phone, her bank cards, told her Marcus had abandoned her, made her sign papers she didn't understand. Jerome was sobbing now. And when she didn't bring back enough money, I locked her in the storage room. For how long? Sometimes hours, sometimes days. Was she given food, water? No. Was she given access to a bathroom? No. Was she physically harmed? Jerome buried his face in his hands. My wife, Denise, she would hit her, hold her head underwater, burn her with cigarettes when she cried too loud. Dorothy made a strangled sound. Marcus wrapped his arm around her, holding her close. And did Vincent Malone know about this treatment? He ordered it. Jerome looked up at Malone, something like hatred in his eyes. He said we needed to break her spirit, make her compliant. He said broken people don't fight back. The prosecutor turned to the judge. Your Honor, I'd like to enter into Evidence Exhibit 47. A notebook recovered from the defendant's associate's residence written by the victim Dorothy Thompson documenting 8 months of abuse. The judge nodded. Proceed. Sarah Chen held up the familiar composition book. Mrs. Thompson kept a detailed record of every incident, every beating, every night in the dark room, every time she was forced to beg on the streets. She opened the book. May I read from it? You may. Entry dated April 15th. Jerome locked me in the closet again. 3 days this time. I can hear rats in the walls. I'm so hungry. I keep praying Marcus will come, But Jerome says he's never coming back. Maybe he's right. Maybe I'm going to die in here. Dorothy was shaking. Marcus pulled her closer. Entry dated June 3rd. Denise held me under the water again. I thought I was going to die. I wanted to die. But then I thought of Marcus. My baby boy. I can't leave him without saying goodbye. I have to hold on. Entry dated August 22nd. I made $43 today. Jerome said it wasn't enough. He said tomorrow I have to stay out until I have 60. My feet are bleeding. I can't stand for that long anymore. But if I don't bring back enough, Denise will burn me again. The prosecutor closed the book. Your Honor, the prosecution submits that Vincent Malone orchestrated a systematic campaign of torture, exploitation, and abuse against a 68-year-old woman. We request that he be held without bail pending trial. Malone's lawyer shot to his feet. Your Honor, my client denies all involvement. Mr. Williams is a known criminal trying to reduce his own sentence. His testimony cannot be trusted. Is that so? The prosecutor smiled coldly. Then perhaps the court would like to see Exhibit 48. Text messages between Mr. Malone and Mr. Williams recovered from Mr. Williams's phone. She clicked a remote, and messages appeared on the courtroom screen. Malone to Jerome. The old woman brought in $892 last month. Not good enough. Increase her hours. Jerome to Malone. She's getting weak, can barely stand. Malone to Jerome. Then make her sit. I don't care if she dies on that sidewalk. She pays until she's paid off. Another message. Malone to Jerome. The sun is coming back next month. Time to escalate. I want her broken completely by then. Compliant. Ready to sign anything we put in front of her. Jerome to Malone. What if she won't sign? Malone to Jerome. Then we make her watch while my boys work on her fingers. She'll sign. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged her gavel repeatedly, calling for order. Dorothy was crying openly now. Marcus's face was a mask of controlled rage. Your Honor, the prosecutor said calmly, the evidence is clear. Vincent Malone is a danger to society and a flight risk. The prosecution requests immediate remand. The judge looked at Malone. For the first time since the hearing began, fear flickered in the loan shark's eyes. Bail is denied. The defendant will be held in federal custody until trial. She banged her gavel. This court is adjourned. As marshals led Malone away, he turned and looked directly at Dorothy. His lips moved, forming words only she could see. This isn't over. Dorothy stood up. She was still trembling, still crying. But she met his gaze without flinching. Yes, she said quietly. It is. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed them. Marcus shielded his mother as security cleared a path to the car. Mr. Thompson, do you have a statement? Mrs. Thompson, how do you feel about the charges? Is it true Malone threatened to sell your mother? Marcus helped Dorothy into the car and turned to face the cameras. My mother is a survivor. She endured 8 months of torture at the hands of people who were supposed to protect her. Today, justice began, but it's not finished yet. His eyes hardened. To anyone else who thinks they can exploit the vulnerable, who thinks they can prey on the elderly and the isolated, I have a message. We are watching, and we will find you. He got into the car and closed the door. The driver pulled away, leaving the chaos behind. Dorothy was silent for a long time. Then she spoke. Jerome. On the stand. He was crying. Crocodile tears. No. Dorothy shook her head. I've known that boy since he was 6 years old. Those were real tears. She paused. He was ashamed. He should be. Marcus. Dorothy turned to face him. I'm not asking you to forgive him. I'm not even sure I can forgive him, but I need you to understand something. What? Jerome was a victim too, not like me. He made choices, terrible choices. But Malone had him trapped, just like he had me trapped. Her voice softened. Sometimes people do monstrous things because they're afraid. Because they can't see any other way out. That doesn't excuse what he did. No, it explains it. Dorothy took his hand. There's a difference between understanding and excusing. I can understand why Jerome did what he did without excusing it. And maybe that's how I survive this. By understanding that the world isn't divided into monsters and saints. It's just full of broken people trying not to drown. Marcus didn't respond. He wasn't sure he agreed, but his mother had earned the right to process this however she needed to. When they arrived home, Detective Williams was waiting in the driveway. His face was grave. "We have a problem." Marcus's stomach dropped. What now? Denise Williams escaped custody 2 hours ago. Escaped? How? She was being transported to a medical facility for a psychiatric evaluation. The van was ambushed. 2 marshals injured. Denise is gone. Williams held up his phone. And 20 minutes ago, this was posted to her social media. Marcus took the phone and read the message. Dorothy Thompson thinks she's safe. She thinks her rich son can protect her. She's wrong. I'm coming for her. And when I find her, I'm going to finish what we started. See you soon, Auntie. Dorothy went pale. She's insane. We're increasing security immediately, Williams said. Armed guards around the clock. I'm also requesting FBI protection. Do it. Marcus was already on the phone with his head of security. I want every entrance covered. Motion sensors, cameras. If a squirrel comes within 100 feet of this house, I want to know about it. He hung up and turned to his mother. You're not leaving this house until she's caught. For how long? As long as it takes. Dorothy's face hardened. No. Mama, I spent 8 months as a prisoner. Locked in rooms, told where I could go and what I could do. I refuse to live like that again. She stood up straight, defiant. If Denise wants to come for me, let her come. I'm not hiding. This isn't about hiding. It's about keeping you safe. Safe? Dorothy laughed bitterly. I was safe in Piedmont, in a beautiful house with family checking on me. Look how that turned out. She shook her head. Safety is an illusion, Marcus. The only real protection is being strong enough to face whatever comes. You can't face a woman with a gun, Mama. Maybe not, but I can face her with dignity. Dorothy touched his cheek. I know you want to protect me, but the best way to protect me is to help me feel like a person again. Not a victim, not a prisoner, a person. Marcus struggled with himself. Every instinct screamed at him to lock her in a bulletproof room until Denise was caught. But he remembered what the trauma therapist had said. Dorothy's recovery depended on regaining agency, on feeling in control of her own life again. Okay, he said finally. But we compromise. You don't leave the house alone. You stay away from windows. And you wear this. He handed her a small device. Panic button. Press it, and armed guards will be at your side in 30 seconds. Dorothy looked at the device, then at her son. Thank you. For what? For treating me like a person. Not a porcelain doll that might break. That night, Dorothy couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Denise. In some ways, Denise was more frightening than Malone. Malone was a businessman. Cold, calculating evil, but rational. He did things for money and power. Denise was different. Denise was unhinged. The hatred in her eyes when she hit Dorothy when she held her underwater, it wasn't professional. It was personal. Dorothy still didn't understand why. What had she ever done to Denise? She had welcomed the woman into her family, treated her like a daughter. And Denise had repaid her with cruelty beyond imagination. A sound broke the silence. Footsteps in the hallway. Dorothy sat up, her heart pounding. She reached for the panic button on her nightstand. The door opened. Mama, it's me, Dorothy sagged with relief. Marcus, you scared me half to death. Sorry, I couldn't sleep either. He walked over and sat on the edge of her bed. I keep thinking about the trial. What Jerome said on the stand. About Malone. About you. Marcus's voice was thick. He said they were trying to break you, make you compliant. He looked at his mother with something like awe. But they didn't break you, did they? 8 months of hell, and you still had the strength to keep that notebook. To hold on until I came. I almost gave up, Dorothy admitted. More than once. There were nights in that dark room when I prayed to die, when I thought death would be a mercy. What stopped you? You. Dorothy smiled softly. I would think about you as a little boy, running around our apartment in the projects pretending to be a superhero. You used to say you were going to save the world someday. Her eyes glistened. I couldn't leave without seeing if you did. Did I save the world? You saved mine. Dorothy took his hand. That's enough. They sat together in the darkness, mother and son holding hands like they used to when Marcus was a child afraid of thunderstorms. Mama, Marcus said quietly, I need to tell you something. What is it? When I found you on that sidewalk begging for change in that purple sweater, something inside me broke. I've built companies, closed billion-dollar deals, been called one of the most powerful black men in America. But none of that mattered, because I had failed the one person who mattered most. Marcus. Let me finish. He took a shaky breath. I blamed myself. For leaving you with Jerome. For trusting family. For being so focused on success that I didn't notice you were suffering. It wasn't your fault. It was. Marcus's voice cracked. I should have visited. Should have demanded video calls instead of accepting Jerome's excuses. Should have trusted my instincts when you stopped answering the phone. He was crying now. I'm sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. Dorothy reached out and pulled her son close. She held him the way she had when he was a boy, smoothing his hair, whispering comfort. Listen to me, Marcus Thompson. You are the best son a mother could ask for. You worked your way out of the projects built. An empire bought me a house I never dreamed of living in. You sent me money every month, called me every week. You did everything right. But you still suffered. Because evil people exist, not because you failed. Dorothy pulled back and looked into his eyes. Jerome and Denise made their choices. Malone made his choices. Their sins are not your burden to carry. Then whose burden are they? Theirs and God's. Dorothy wiped the tears from her son's face. You've spent 3 weeks trying to fix everything. Lawyers, police, FBI, security guards. But some things can't be fixed with money or power, baby. Some things can only be healed with time. I don't know how to do that. To just wait. It's not who I am. Then learn. Dorothy smiled. I'll teach you. The same way I taught you to read, to ride a bike, to believe in yourself when the world said a black boy from the projects could never amount to anything. Marcus laughed through his tears. You always were the best teacher. Damn right I was. Dorothy squeezed his hand. Now go to bed. We've got a long road ahead of us, and we both need rest. Marcus kissed his mother's forehead and stood. I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby. Now go. He walked to the door, then paused. Mama. Yes. Tomorrow I want to do something, together. Something that has nothing to do with trials or police or security. Like what? Remember when I was little, you used to take me to Lake Merritt. We'd feed the ducks and eat sandwiches on the grass. Dorothy smiled. You remember that? It's one of my favorite memories. Marcus's voice was soft. Can we do that again? Just us? Forget everything else for a few hours and just be together? Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. I would love that. Good. It's a date. He closed the door behind him. Dorothy lay back against the pillows, something warm spreading through her chest. For the first time in 8 months, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The next morning, Marcus woke to his phone ringing. Detective Williams again. What now? Marcus answered, expecting more bad news. We found Denise. Marcus sat up. Where? 73 miles outside Oakland heading east. Highway patrol spotted the stolen vehicle she was driving. Williams paused. She's dead, Marcus. Dead. Single car accident. She ran off the road doing 90 miles an hour. Car went over an embankment and caught fire. She was dead before the paramedics arrived. Marcus didn't know what to feel. Relief, guilt for feeling relieved. Emptiness. Are you sure it's her? Dental records confirmed it an hour ago. It's over Marcus. Denise Williams is gone. He hung up and sat in silence for a long moment. Then he walked to his mother's room. Dorothy was already awake, dressed ready for their trip to the lake. "You look nice," Marcus said. "Thank you. I found this dress in the closet. I think it's new. I had Margaret buy some things for you." He paused. "Mama, I have news." "Good or bad?" "I'm not sure." He sat down beside her. "Denise is dead." Dorothy's face showed no emotion. She simply nodded. "How?" "Car accident. Last night. She ran off the road." "Was anyone else hurt?" "No, just her." Dorothy was quiet for a long time. Then she spoke. "I should feel something. Relief. Satisfaction. Something." She shook her head. "But I just feel tired." "That's okay, Mama. You don't have to feel anything. She was going to kill me. She said so. And now she's dead." Dorothy looked at her hands. "It doesn't feel like justice. It feels like waste. A wasted life. Her choices led her there." "I know." Dorothy stood up. "Let's go feed the ducks. I don't want to think about this anymore." They drove to Lake Merritt in silence. Marcus parked near their old spot, the same bench they had sat on 30 years ago when he was a child, and his mother was young and strong. The lake was peaceful. Ducks glided across the water. Children ran along the paths. Life went on oblivious to the darkness they had survived. Dorothy threw bread to the ducks, watching them paddle and squabble over the pieces. "I used to bring you here when times were hard," she said. "When the rent was late or the lights got shut off, or I didn't know how we were going to eat. I'd bring you here and watch you laugh at the ducks, and for a little while, everything was okay." "I remember. I never told you how scared I was, how many nights I lay awake wondering if I was going to fail you." Dorothy turned to face him. "But I didn't fail, and neither did you. We almost lost each other." "Almost doesn't count," Dorothy smiled. "We're here now, together, feeding ducks like we used to. That's what matters." Marcus watched his mother standing in the sunlight, bread in her hands, a smile on her face. She had survived torture, starvation, humiliation. She had been abandoned by family, hunted by killers, forced to beg on the streets. And here she was, feeding ducks. "You're the strongest person I know, Mama." Dorothy laughed. "I'm just stubborn. There's a difference." "No." Marcus put his arm around her. "There isn't." They stayed at the lake until the sun began to set. Then they drove home talking about nothing important, laughing at old memories, planning for the future. The trial would continue. Jerome would testify. Malone would face justice. The stolen money would be recovered, the house reclaimed, the nightmare finally ended. But that was tomorrow. Today was for healing. 2 months had passed since the day at Lake Merritt. Dorothy Thompson stood in front of the bathroom mirror, studying her reflection. She had gained 15 pounds. Her cheeks were full again. Her eyes were bright. The woman staring back at her looked almost like the woman she used to be. Almost. She reached for the faucet and turned on the water. Her hand trembled slightly. It always did when she heard running water. The therapist said it might take years for that response to fade. Maybe it never would completely. But today, Dorothy forced herself to cup her hands under the stream. She splashed water on her face. Once. Twice. 3 times. She didn't panic. She didn't scream. She didn't see Denise's face, or feel hands pushing her head down. Progress. "Mama!" Marcus's voice came from downstairs. "The car is here." Dorothy dried her face and took one last look in the mirror. "You survived," she whispered to her reflection. "And today, you're going to watch the man who tried to destroy you lose everything." She walked downstairs where Marcus was waiting. He was wearing his best suit, the one he saved for billion-dollar negotiations. Today's negotiation was different. Today, Vincent Malone would learn his fate. "You ready?" Marcus asked. "I've been ready for 2 months." The drive to the federal courthouse felt shorter this time. Dorothy watched the Oakland streets pass by, remembering all the corners where she had begged for change, all the doorways where she had huddled against the cold, all the faces that had looked away. "I want to do something," she said suddenly. "What?" "After the trial. I want to go back to that Whole Foods, the one where you found me." Marcus glanced at her. "Why?" "Because I need to see it differently. I need to replace the memory of who I was there with who I am now." Dorothy straightened her shoulders. "I'm not that broken woman anymore. I want that corner to know it." Marcus smiled. "We'll go. Right after the verdict." The courthouse was packed. Media from across the country had descended on Oakland for what they were calling the trial of the decade. A loan shark who had operated for 20 years finally brought down by his own greed. Dorothy and Marcus were escorted to seats in the front row. Behind them sat Detective Williams, the FBI agents who had arrested Malone, and surprisingly, Jerome Williams. Dorothy turned to look at her nephew. He was thin pale, wearing an orange jumpsuit. His wrists were shackled. 2 months in county jail, awaiting his own sentencing, had aged him 10 years. Their eyes met. "Auntie," Jerome whispered. "I didn't think you'd want me here." "I didn't." Dorothy's voice was cold. "But the prosecutor said your presence might influence the jury, so here you are." "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything, but I'm sorry." "You're right." Dorothy turned back to face the front. "It doesn't mean anything." The bailiff announced the judge's entrance. Everyone rose. Judge Hawkins took her seat and called the court to order. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" The jury foreman, a middle-aged black man in a neat suit, stood. "We have your honor. On the charge of extortion in the first degree, how do you find guilty? On the charge of assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm, how do you find guilty? On the charge of human trafficking, how do you find guilty?" With each word, Dorothy felt a weight lift from her chest. Guilty, guilty, guilty. 14 charges, 14 guilty verdicts. Malone sat motionless at the defense table. His expensive lawyer looked sick. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, how do you find guilty? The courtroom erupted. Reporters scrambled for their phones. Malone's lawyer demanded a poll of the jury. The judge banged her gavel, calling for order. Dorothy didn't move. She sat perfectly still, tears streaming down her face, watching as the man who had orchestrated her torture finally faced justice. Marcus put his arm around her. "It's over, Mama. It's finally over." "Not yet." Dorothy wiped her eyes. "I want to hear the sentence." Judge Hawkins restored order and turned to Malone. "Mr. Malone, you have been found guilty on all 14 counts. Before I pronounce sentence, do you have anything to say?" Malone's lawyer started to rise, but Malone waved him down. He stood slowly adjusting his suit jacket, as if he were about to address a board meeting. "Your Honor," he said, his voice smooth and calm. "I've been in business for 20 years. I've employed hundreds of people. I've contributed to political campaigns, charitable organizations, community development." He smiled, that cold, empty smile Dorothy remembered so well. "Whatever mistakes were made, I am not a monster. I am a businessman." "A businessman?" Dorothy was on her feet before she knew what she was doing. "You call yourself a businessman?" "Mama!" Marcus tried to pull her back. "No." Dorothy shook him off. "I have something to say." Judge Hawkins studied her for a moment. "Mrs. Thompson, this is highly irregular. Your Honor, that man just stood in your courtroom and called himself a businessman. He talked about contributions and community development." Dorothy's voice was shaking, but not with fear, with rage. "He didn't mention the 12 other people he tortured. He didn't mention the families he destroyed. He didn't mention holding a 68-year-old woman's head underwater until she thought she was going to die. Mrs. Thompson, I begged on the streets for 8 months. I slept in a closet without food or water. I was burned with cigarettes and beaten with belts. And that man, she pointed at Malone, sat in his fancy house, counting his money while I suffered. The courtroom was silent. Even the reporters had stopped typing. I'm not asking for revenge, Your Honor. I'm asking for justice. Real justice. Not just for me, but for every person that man has ever hurt. Dorothy's voice dropped. He called himself a businessman. I call him what he is. A monster. She sat down. Marcus squeezed her hand. Judge Hawkins was quiet for a long moment. Then she turned to Malone. Mr. Malone, I've presided over many trials in my 30 years on the bench. I've seen murderers, rapists, drug dealers. But I have rarely seen cruelty as systematic and calculated as yours. Malone's smile faded. You didn't just exploit vulnerable people. You broke them, deliberately, methodically. You turned human beings into commodities and discarded them when they were no longer useful. The judge's voice hardened. Mrs. Thompson is right. You are not a businessman. You are a predator. Your Honor. Silence. Judge Hawkins' gaze could have cut steel. Vincent Anthony Malone, I hereby sentence you to 45 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. You will serve your sentence at a maximum security facility where you will have plenty of time to reflect on the lives you destroyed. Malone's face went white. 45 years, I'll die in there. That is not the court's concern. Judge Hawkins banged her gavel. Court is adjourned. As marshals moved to take Malone into custody, he turned and looked directly at Dorothy. His mask was gone. In its place was pure hatred. This isn't over, he snarled. I have friends, people who owe me. You think you're safe? You'll never be safe. I'll find a way to get him out of here. Judge Hawkins's voice cut through his threats. The marshals dragged Malone away, still shouting threats. His voice echoed through the halls until a heavy door slammed shut and silence fell. Dorothy sat motionless, her heart pounding. Marcus was already on the phone with his security team, ordering increased protection. Detective Williams approached. Mrs. Thompson. I know that was frightening, but try not to worry. Malone is going to a Supermax facility. He won't be able to contact anyone on the outside. He has friends, Dorothy said quietly. He said so himself. We're investigating his entire network. Anyone who might want to retaliate. Williams put a hand on her shoulder. You did something brave today standing up like that. A lot of victims never get that chance. I'm not a victim. Dorothy stood up, straightening her dress. Not anymore. Outside the courthouse, the media was waiting. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Dorothy shielded her eyes from the glare. Mrs. Thompson, how do you feel about the verdict? Mrs. Thompson, what's your message to other abuse survivors? Mrs. Thompson, will you write a book about your experience? Marcus tried to shield his mother from the onslaught, but Dorothy held up her hand. I'll make a statement. The crowd fell silent. Cameras focused. Microphones extended. 8 months ago, I was begging for change outside a supermarket. I had lost everything. My home, my dignity, my hope. I thought my life was over. Dorothy's voice was steady, strong. But my son found me. He brought me home. He helped me fight back. She paused, looking directly into the cameras. To anyone watching who is being abused, exploited, or controlled, I want you to hear this. You are not alone. You are not worthless. And it is not your fault. Her voice cracked slightly. Help exists. People care. Don't give up. Because one day, you might be standing where I'm standing watching your abuser go to prison for the rest of his miserable life. She turned and walked toward the car, leaving the reporters stunned. Marcus caught up with her. That was incredible, Mama. I meant every word. Dorothy got into the car. Now take me to that Whole Foods. I have unfinished business. 30 minutes later, they pulled into the familiar parking lot. Dorothy sat in the car for a moment, staring at the corner where she had spent so many desperate hours. You don't have to do this, Marcus said. Yes, I do. She opened the door and stepped out. The November air was cold, just like it had been the day Marcus found her. She walked slowly toward the corner, her heels clicking on the pavement. A young security guard looked up as she approached. His eyes widened with recognition. "Ma'am, are you the lady from the news? The one who was on TV just now?" "I'm the lady who used to sit right here." Dorothy pointed to the exact spot. "For 8 months I begged for change on this corner. People walked past me like I was invisible, like I wasn't even human." The security guard's face reddened. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, I remember you. I chased you away a few times. I was just doing my job, but I'm not here for an apology." Dorothy reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. "I'm here to give you this." The guard took the envelope confused. He opened it, and his jaw dropped. This is a check for $50,000. It's a scholarship, for you to finish college." Dorothy smiled at his shock. "My son's foundation looked into your background. You're working 2 jobs to put yourself through school. Criminal justice major. You want to be a police officer." "How did you know that?" "I spent 8 months watching people from that corner. I learned to read them." Dorothy put her hand on his arm. "You were never cruel to me. You were just a young man following orders. But I saw how uncomfortable it made you. I saw you leave food near the trash can where you knew I would find it." The guard's eyes filled with tears. "I wanted to help. I just didn't know how." "Now you can help others. Finish your degree. Become the kind of police officer who protects people like me instead of chasing them away." Dorothy squeezed his arm. "That's how you make it right." She turned and walked back to the car, leaving the stunned young man holding a check that would change his life. Marcus was waiting, a look of wonder on his face. "Mama, I don't even have words." "I've had 2 months to think about what I wanted to do with the rest of my life." Dorothy got into the car. "Malone took everything from me. My money, my home, my dignity. But he also taught me something." "What?" "How easy it is to be invisible. How easy it is for people to look away from suffering because it makes them uncomfortable." Dorothy's voice hardened. "I'm not going to look away anymore. And I'm not going to let anyone else be invisible either." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want to start a foundation. A real one. Not just writing checks, but actually helping people." Dorothy turned to face her son. "I want to find every person Malone hurt, every victim of his network. And I want to help them rebuild their lives." "Mama, that could be hundreds of people." "Then we'd better get started." Marcus stared at his mother. The woman who had been begging for quarters 3 months ago was now talking about starting a foundation to help hundreds of abuse survivors. "You're serious?" "I've never been more serious in my life." Dorothy's eyes blazed with determination. "I spent 8 months helpless, unable to protect myself, unable to protect anyone. That's never going to happen again." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. "What do you want to call it?" "I was thinking about that. I want to call it the Rising Foundation." Dorothy looked out the window at the Oakland streets. "Because that's what survivors do. No matter how many times we're knocked down, we rise." "The Rising Foundation." Marcus nodded. "I like it." "Good, because you're going to help me run it." "Me?" "You're a billionaire with connections all over the world. You know how to build organizations, raise money, get things done." Dorothy took his hand. "I have the vision. You have the resources. Together we're going to change lives." Marcus squeezed her hand. "When do we start?" "Right now. Take me home. We have work to do." The car pulled away from the Whole Foods, leaving behind the corner where Dorothy's nightmare had begun. She didn't look back. There was no need. That chapter of her life was closed. A new chapter was beginning. That evening, Dorothy and Marcus sat in his study, surrounded by papers and laptops. They had been working for hours, mapping out plans for the Rising Foundation. "I've identified 37 confirmed victims of Malone's network," Marcus said, scrolling through his computer. "Jerome's testimony helped us find most of them. Some are still in shelters. Some went back to abusive situations because they had nowhere else to go. Then those are our priorities. Dorothy circled names on her notepad. We find them. We offer help. No strings attached. What kind of help? Whatever they need. Housing, medical care, therapy, job training. Dorothy tapped her pen against the paper. We don't just rescue people and abandon them. We stay with them until they're strong enough to stand on their own. That's going to cost millions. You have millions. Marcus laughed. Fair point. A knock at the door interrupted them. Margaret entered looking uncertain. Mr. Thompson, there's someone here to see Mrs. Thompson? Dorothy frowned. Who? He says his name is Raymond Walker. He says he was one of Malone's victims. Dorothy and Marcus exchanged glances. Send him in, Dorothy said. A moment later, a man appeared in the doorway. He was in his 50s, thin and haggard, wearing clothes that were clean but worn. His eyes were haunted. Mrs. Thompson. His voice was barely above a whisper. I saw you on the news today. What you said about not being invisible. About help existing. Yes. Raymond Walker took a shaky breath. I've been trying to get help for 3 years, ever since Malone's people took my business, my savings, my family. Nobody believed me. The police said I owed the money fair and square. My own kids think I gambled it away. But you didn't. No, ma'am. I borrowed $10,000 to save my restaurant. By the time Malone was done with me, I owed $200,000. When I couldn't pay, they took everything. Burned down my restaurant with me inside. I barely got out alive. Dorothy stood and walked toward him. Why are you here, Mr. Walker? Because you said people care. You said help exists. Tears were streaming down his face. I need to know if that's true, or if it's just something people say. Dorothy took his hands. They were rough, calloused, trembling. It's true, Mr. Walker. Help exists. And you're looking at it. She turned to Marcus. Get Mr. Walker some food and a place to sleep. Tomorrow we start rebuilding his life. Yes, ma'am. As Marcus led Raymond Walker out of the study, Dorothy sat back down at the desk. She looked at the list of 37 names. Now 38. This was her purpose. This was why she had survived. Not for revenge, not for justice, but for this, to be the help she had needed and never received. To be the voice that said, "You are not alone," and meant it. Her phone buzzed. A text from Detective Williams. Malone was transferred to Supermax this afternoon. No incidents. He's in solitary confinement. Can't hurt anyone ever again. Dorothy read the message twice. Then she deleted it. Malone didn't matter anymore. He was in the past. Her focus was on the future. She picked up her pen and added Raymond Walker's name to the list. Number 38. Only a few hundred more to go. 1 year later, Dorothy Thompson stood at a podium in the grand ballroom of the Oakland Convention Center. 500 people filled the seats before her. Survivors, donors, volunteers, journalists, politicians. All gathered for the first anniversary gala of the Rising Foundation, 1 year ago today. Dorothy began, her voice steady and strong. I was sitting on a piece of cardboard outside a supermarket begging for change. I had lost everything. My home, my dignity, my hope. I believed I would die on that sidewalk, forgotten and alone. She paused, looking out at the sea of faces. I was wrong. The audience was silent, hanging on every word. In the past 12 months, the Rising Foundation has helped 147 survivors of exploitation and abuse rebuild their lives. We've provided housing for 63 families, job training for 89 individuals, therapy and medical care for over 200 people. Dorothy's eyes glistened. And we're just getting started. Applause erupted. Dorothy waited for it to subside. But I'm not here to talk about numbers. Numbers don't tell the whole story. So instead, I want to introduce you to someone. She gestured toward the side of the stage. A man walked out wearing a crisp new suit, his shoulders back, his head held high. Raymond Walker. 1 year ago, Raymond came to my door. He had lost his business, his family, his hope. Malone's network had taken everything from him. Dorothy put her hand on Raymond's shoulder. Today Raymond runs a restaurant in downtown Oakland. His children are back in his life. His grandchildren call him Papa Ray. Raymond stepped up to the microphone, tears streaming down his face. "Mrs. Thompson saved my life," he said, his voice breaking. "When everyone else gave up on me, she believed in me. She didn't just give me money, she gave me back my dignity." He turned to Dorothy. "I will never be able to repay you, but I promise to spend the rest of my life paying it forward." The audience rose to their feet, applauding. Dorothy embraced Raymond, holding him tight. This was why she had survived. This moment, this man, this proof that broken people could be made whole again. As the applause continued, Dorothy looked out at the crowd and spotted a familiar face in the back row. Jerome Williams. He was wearing a simple gray suit, his hands folded in his lap. He had been released from prison 3 months ago after serving 9 months and testifying against Malone's entire network. His cooperation had helped convict 17 other predators. Their eyes met across the crowded room. Dorothy didn't smile, she didn't wave, but she didn't look away either. Progress. After the gala, Dorothy sat in her office at the Foundation headquarters reviewing applications from new survivors seeking help. The work never stopped. Every day more people found the courage to reach out. Every day the rising foundation grew. A knock at the door. "Come in." Marcus entered looking troubled. "Mama, there's something we need to discuss." "What is it?" "Jerome is outside. He wants to talk to you." Dorothy's pen stopped moving. "I saw him at the gala." "He's been coming to our events for weeks, volunteering, donating his time." Marcus sat down across from her. "He wants to apologize, properly, in person." "What makes him think I want to hear it?" "I don't know if you do, but I think you need to decide one way or the other." Marcus leaned forward. "You've built something incredible here, Mama. You've helped almost 200 people. But there's one person you haven't helped." "Who?" "Yourself." Marcus's voice was gentle. "You're still carrying Jerome. Every night I hear you walking the halls. Every time someone mentions family, I see you flinch. You've forgiven Malone's other victims. You've forgiven strangers. But you can't forgive the person who hurt you most. Forgiveness isn't something you just decide to do." "No, but it starts with a conversation." Marcus stood. "I'll tell him to leave if you want, but I think you should hear what he has to say." Dorothy was silent for a long moment. She thought about the 8 months of hell Jerome had put her through. The dark room, the beatings, the starvation, the lies. She also thought about the little boy who had cried at her kitchen table when his mother died, the teenager she had helped with homework, the young man she had danced with at his wedding. "Send him in." 5 minutes later, Jerome Williams stood in the doorway of his aunt's office. He looked nothing like the desperate, greedy man who had stolen her life. Prison had stripped away his arrogance, his selfishness, his denial. What remained was a broken man seeking redemption. "Auntie," his voice cracked. "Thank you for seeing me." "Sit down, Jerome." He sat across from her, his hands trembling. "I've been trying to find the words for a year. I've written 100 letters, thrown them all away. Nothing I say can undo what I did." "You're right, it can't." Jerome flinched at her coldness. I know I destroyed our family. I know I nearly killed you. I know I'm the reason you spent 8 months in hell." Tears spilled down his cheeks. "I wake up every night seeing your face. Hearing you beg me to stop. I can't escape it. I'll never escape it." "Good." "Auntie, no." Dorothy's voice was like steel. "You don't get to come here and cry and expect me to make you feel better. That's not how this works. I'm not asking you to make me feel better. I'm asking you to let me try to make it right." How could you possibly make it right?" Jerome reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick envelope. He placed it on the desk between them. "This is everything I have. Every dollar I've saved since getting out of prison. It's not much. $12,000. But it's a start." He pushed the envelope toward her. I want to donate it to the foundation, to help the people I hurt. Dorothy looked at the envelope, but didn't touch it. I've also been volunteering at the homeless shelter on 14th Street, Jerome continued. 3 nights a week, I serve food, clean-up talk to people who are struggling. His voice strengthened. I can't undo what I did to you, but I can spend the rest of my life trying to be the man you thought I was. And you think that's enough? No. Jerome met her eyes. It will never be enough, but it's all I have. The room fell silent. Dorothy studied her nephew's face, searching for any trace of the manipulator who had stolen her life. She didn't find it. She found only exhaustion, shame, and a desperate desire to be better. Do you remember, Dorothy said slowly, when your mother died? You were 6 years old. You came to my house in the middle of the night crying so hard you couldn't breathe. I remember. I held you for hours. I told you everything was going to be okay. I promised I would always take care of you. Dorothy's voice wavered. I kept that promise, Jerome. For 30 years I kept it. And you repaid me by treating me like garbage. I know. I loved you like a son. I would have died for you. And you let Denise hold my head underwater while I begged for mercy. Jerome broke down completely. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was weak. I was afraid. Malone had me trapped, and I was too much of a coward to find another way out. I destroyed the only person who ever truly loved me. Yes, you did. I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that I'm not that person anymore. Jerome looked up, his face ravaged by tears. The man who hurt you, he died in that prison cell. What's left is someone trying to become worthy of the love you gave him. Dorothy was quiet for a long time. She looked at the envelope on her desk. $12,000. Not even a fraction of what he had stolen, but every penny he had. She thought about what Marcus had said, about carrying Jerome, about forgiving everyone except the person who hurt her most. She thought about the little boy crying at her kitchen table. I can't forgive you, Dorothy said finally. Not yet, maybe not ever. What you did, it changed me forever. I have nightmares every night. I can't take a bath without panicking. I flinch every time someone touches me unexpectedly. Jerome nodded, accepting her words. But, Dorothy continued, I don't want to carry you anymore. I've spent a year building something beautiful out of the ashes of what you destroyed. I refuse to let hatred poison it. She pushed the envelope back toward him. Keep your money. Use it to help someone else. And keep volunteering at that shelter. Dorothy stood up. If you really want to honor what we once had, don't do it for me. Do it for the people who need it. Do it because it's right. Jerome stared at her. You're not taking the money. I don't need your money, Jerome. I need you to become a better person. That's how you make amends, not with cash, with change. She walked to the door and opened it. Now go. I have work to do. Jerome stood slowly. He walked toward the door, then stopped. Auntie? Yes. The man I'm trying to become. It's the man you always believed I could be. Before I lost my way. His voice was barely a whisper. Thank you for believing in that man, even when he didn't exist. He walked out without looking back. Dorothy closed the door and leaned against it, her heart pounding. She didn't feel relieved. She didn't feel healed. But she felt something she hadn't expected. Free. For the first time in a year, the weight of Jerome was gone. That night, Dorothy couldn't sleep. She walked through the quiet mansion, her bare feet silent on the hardwood floors. She ended up in the kitchen making tea, staring out at the Oakland skyline. Marcus found her there an hour later. Couldn't sleep either, he asked. Too much on my mind. Jerome? Partly. Dorothy sipped her tea. Mostly I was thinking about the future. Marcus sat down across from her. What about it? I'm 69 years old, Marcus. I've survived things that should have killed me. I've built something that will outlast me. She set down her cup. But I realized today that I've been so focused on helping others that I forgot to ask myself what I actually want. What do you want? Dorothy smiled softly. I want to see you happy, really happy. Not just successful, but fulfilled. I am happy, Mama. No, you're not. Dorothy reached across the table and took his hand. You've spent the past year taking care of me, building the foundation, fighting legal battles. When was the last time you did something just for yourself? Marcus was silent. When was the last time you went on a date, took a vacation, laughed until your stomach hurt? There hasn't been time. There's always time. You just have to make it. Dorothy squeezed his hand. I'm not fragile anymore, baby. I don't need you to protect me every minute. What I need is to see my son living his life, not putting it on hold for me. You're my priority, Mama. And you're mine, which is why I'm telling you this. Dorothy's eyes were fierce. I didn't survive 8 months of hell just to watch you sacrifice your happiness for me. That's not what I want. That's not what any mother wants. Marcus looked at his mother. The woman who had begged on the streets. The woman who had driven across Oakland to save his life. The woman who had built a foundation that was changing hundreds of lives. What do you suggest? I suggest you take a week off. Go somewhere beautiful. Meet someone interesting. Dorothy smiled. And let me run the foundation while you're gone. You want to run it? I've been learning. Margaret's been teaching me the computer systems. Raymond handles the logistics. We have a good team. Dorothy lifted her chin. I may be old, but I'm not useless. Marcus laughed. Mama, you're the least useless person I know. Then trust me. Go live your life. I'll be here when you get back. Marcus studied his mother's face. She was serious. More than serious. She was determined. 1 week, he said finally. But I'm keeping my phone on. Fair enough. And if anything happens, I will call you immediately, but nothing's going to happen. Dorothy stood and kissed his forehead. Now go to bed. You have a vacation to plan. After Marcus left, Dorothy remained at the kitchen table. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through the Foundation's latest reports. 147 survivors helped, 63 families housed, 89 people employed. Not bad for a woman who had been begging for quarters a year ago. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Thompson, my name is Angela Martinez. I saw you on the news. I've been hiding from my abuser for 2 years. I have 3 children and nowhere to go. Can you help me? Dorothy typed her response immediately. Yes, tell me where you are. We'll send someone tonight. The reply came seconds later. An address in East Oakland, less than 10 miles away. Dorothy forwarded the message to the Foundation's emergency team, then added a note. Priority case. 3 children. I want a full report by morning. She put down her phone and finished her tea. Another life to save. Another family to rebuild. Another chance to prove that broken things could be made whole. This was her purpose. This was her legacy. Not the money Marcus had given her. Not the revenge she had taken on Malone. But this, the simple, powerful act of saying, I see you, to people the world had ignored. 1 week later, Marcus returned from his vacation. He found his mother in her office, surrounded by papers, speaking rapidly into her phone. Yes, the Martinez family is settled. 3-bedroom apartment in Alameda. Kids are enrolled in school. Mother starts job training next week. Dorothy looked up and saw Marcus. I have to go. We'll talk tomorrow. She hung up and smiled at her son. You look rested. I feel rested. Marcus sat down. How did it go? We helped 12 new families while you were gone. The Martinez children are safe. Raymond's restaurant won an award for Best New Business in Oakland. And Jerome... Dorothy paused. Jerome came by every day to help. He never asked for anything, just worked. That's good, Mama. It's progress. Dorothy leaned back in her chair. Now tell me about your trip. Did you meet anyone interesting? Marcus smiled. Actually, yes. Oh. Dorothy's eyes lit up. Tell me everything. Her name is Jasmine. She's a pediatrician in Los Angeles. We met at a conference I attended on my last day. Marcus's smile widened. She's smart, funny, beautiful. And she doesn't care about my money. When do I meet her? She's coming to Oakland next month. I want to introduce you. Dorothy clapped her hands together. Finally, I was beginning to think you'd never find someone. I was busy, Mama. Too busy, but not anymore. Dorothy stood and hugged her son. I'm happy for you, baby. You deserve love. So do you. Dorothy pulled back. What do you mean? I mean you've spent the last year taking care of everyone else. Survivors, volunteers, staff me. Marcus took her hands. When was the last time someone took care of you? I don't need... Yes, you do. Marcus's voice was firm. I've arranged something. Tomorrow you're going to a spa. Full day of treatments. Massage, facial, the works. And you're going to let someone else worry about the foundation for once. Dorothy started to protest, then stopped. She thought about the past year. The trials, the testimony, the endless work. She had poured everything she had into the rising foundation, and she had forgotten somewhere along the way to take care of herself. One day, she said finally. One day, and next month when Jasmine comes, we're all going to dinner, like a real family. I'd like that. They stood together in the office, mother and son, surrounded by evidence of everything they had built. Outside the window, Oakland stretched toward the horizon, a city full of broken people waiting to be found. Mama, Marcus said quietly. Yes. I'm proud of you. Everything you've overcome. Everything you've created. You're the strongest person I've ever known. Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. I'm proud of you too, baby, for never giving up on me, for finding me when I was lost. I'll always find you, Mama, no matter what. They embraced, holding each other tight. 14 months ago, Dorothy Thompson had been begging for quarters on a cold November street. Today, she ran a foundation that had saved nearly 200 lives. She had faced down her abuser in court. She had begun the long process of forgiving her nephew. She had helped her son find love. And she had finally learned to take care of herself. The story of Dorothy Thompson was not a story of revenge. It was not a story of wealth or power or triumph over enemies. It was a story of rising. Rising from the ashes of destruction. Rising from the depths of despair. Rising from the coldest, darkest places a human soul can go. Vincent Malone would spend the rest of his life in prison. Jerome Williams would spend the rest of his life trying to atone. Denise Williams was dead, her hatred extinguished on a dark highway. But Dorothy Thompson was alive. She was strong. She was surrounded by people who loved her. And she would never stop rising. That night, Dorothy stood on the balcony of the mansion, looking out at the Oakland skyline. The city glittered beneath her, full of stories waiting to be told. Full of people waiting to be saved. She thought about the young woman on a cardboard box, begging for quarters. She thought about the terrified prisoner in the dark room. She thought about the broken soul who had prayed for death. That woman was gone now. In her place stood someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who had learned that the deepest wounds could become the greatest strengths. Marcus joined her on the balcony. What are you thinking about? Beginnings and endings. Dorothy smiled. How they're often the same thing. What do you mean? The day you found me begging on that sidewalk, I thought it was the end of my life. She turned to face him. But it was actually the beginning of everything that matters. Marcus put his arm around her. Together they watched the lights of Oakland flicker and glow. What's next? He asked. Tomorrow we help more people. We build more lives. We keep rising. Dorothy's voice was steady, certain, unbreakable. And we never ever forget where we came from. She had been broken. She had been abandoned. She had been left to die. But Dorothy Thompson did not die. She rose. And she would keep rising until her very last breath,